Take good care of those two, will you? What do you mean, take good care? Although John said it casually, I wonder if he would have accepted it if nothing had happened. I still don't quite understand. John was supposed to have gone on a business trip, but apparently, he had an accident at his destination. The call I received led me to a small town. It was suspicious that business trips, which had never been frequent before, suddenly increased, and he started going several times a month. Moreover, an employee of a copier company having a traffic accident in a town must mean something's up. While thinking about all this at the hospital, I accidentally ran into Emily. Why is Emily here? And what does it mean that she was in the town with John? Even in this seemingly desperate situation, it's infuriating to think he believes he can still deceive everyone. Does he think I'm just going to let this slide? I have strong allies, so there's no way John can escape without consequences. He should wake up to reality and rethink his actions. My name is Aita Smith. I'm a 33-year-old preschool teacher. After graduating from a community college, I started working at a fairly large town's daycare center. The job as a preschool teacher is harder than I thought, but being around these always smiling kids somehow makes me feel refreshed. However, constantly dealing with children at work, I sometimes yearn for adult conversation. Surrounded by dozens of kids, with a few fellow teachers around, I remain an educator in front of the children. Busy with work and unable to match schedules with college friends, I hardly have time for a coffee break. I don't have time to make friends with similar interests. So I'm always an educator when interacting with anyone other than myself. As a teacher, I can't really have adult-to-adult conversations. At my workplace, I am strictly a teacher, nothing more. One day, I was asked to take over the data management at work. A teacher going on maternity leave had been handling it, and it fell to me, seemingly the most idle and timid. Honestly, managing the data is just more hassle, not something to be happy about. I wanted to go home early and work as little and as easily as possible, so this was nothing but an additional chore. Even a job like managing the printer, which I was not used to in my usual work. I really hated it. Ensuring the printer works smoothly, refilling ink, and managing paper stock. It's all so bothersome. However, I couldn't have imagined that a person who would dispel my gloomy feelings was about to appear. In the afternoon, the daycare's bell rang, and the data manager, which was now me, was called to the staff room. It was nap time for the kids, so after informing my paired teacher, I headed to the staff room. Hello. I've come for the printer inspection. I think I reacted as if I had been electrocuted at that moment. For some reason, his appearance or voice, there was something indescribable about him. Yes. I'm in charge. I took over from the previous person, and now I'm responsible. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I'm John Smith from the printer company. My first impression of John was pretty intriguing. It wasn't the kind of feeling you'd normally have for someone you meet through work. It felt strangely familiar, like I had met him somewhere before. You probably won't remember. Do you sometimes stop by the store in front of the station in the morning? That comment jogged my memory. Oh. You were in the snacks section at the store, right? I occasionally stop by the store near the station to grab lunch or a drink. The items I buy vary, but there's always this guy there at a certain time. Right at the entrance, standing near the prominently displayed new products shelf, carefully choosing which one to buy. That was him. Actually, I've seen you at the store. Never thought I'd meet you here. That's my line. I was curious about the new snacks, but I also found myself wondering about the lady I saw there sometimes. Could something like this really happen? Usually busy with kids at work, I, a woman with virtually no encounters with men, remember feeling thrilled by his words. Talking about work is one thing, but how about we exchange contact info? Of course. That was how I, on the day I met the printer company representative, ended up exchanging contacts with him. We gradually got closer, sharing little daily incidents and amusing stories, and he became more and more significant to me. It was love at first sight for me. But as I got to know Aita, I realized she's someone I want to be with all the time, someone who makes me feel so at ease. Will you marry me? I can't believe this dreamlike day has come. I'm so happy. For me, who thought I'd just age being focused on work, this was an unexpected spring. Meeting someone by chance on the streets, deepening our interaction and love, and moving towards marriage as a goal. At that moment, I was on top of the world, but I also had another thought in my heart. I won't end up like my sister. I will seize my happiness. I whispered that to myself. My sister, Emily, is 2 years older than me. Though we're not far apart in age, the idea that we're close as sisters is a complete misconception. I'm, well, not exactly a standout type. Just an average person who decided to become a preschool teacher because I loved kids, with decent grades and an okay sense of style. On the other hand, Emily was the total opposite, always focused on fashion. She was always thinking about how to stay beautiful and stylish. The kind of person who was part of the top, trend-setting, somewhat admired group in her school. Perhaps it's because of such relationships, but dating men has been a common occurrence since my student days. Ever since she got a boyfriend in her first year of middle school, Emily had never been without a boyfriend. She moved out of her parents' house right after high school graduation to live with her then boyfriend. In the end, she had a daughter at the age of 25 and settled down, but soon after, she got divorced. I sometimes checked if she's doing well by connecting with her on social media. She always dressed up stylishly and posted dazzling photos, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of emptiness. More like a fake facade from my childhood when I couldn't stand not being the center of attention, rather than a real mother. It's not about flaunting happiness in front of others. I believed that I should weave a happiness that fulfills myself and John, that was my belief. Life was blissful right after we got married. Coming home to someone I love, sharing meals, and enjoying the calm evenings together was something I cherished. We'd share our day's experiences and laugh together, those moments were priceless to me. But at some point, things with John started to feel off. He began commenting on my appearance and behavior. He seemed like the type who wanted to control others, always offering unsolicited advice. At first, I tried not to mind it, but it was becoming too much. Hey, Aita, don't you ever do your makeup properly? As a preschool teacher, it tends to come off while taking care of kids or playing with them, so not really. But isn't that outfit a bit too casual for work? Is it? I always dress like this, don't I? That day, I was wearing a hoodie and jeans. Since I bike to the daycare, I prioritize comfort, and I change into work clothes there anyway. I've always commuted in this style without any issues. Most working women in their 30s don't walk around in such casual clothes. It looks like loungewear. Really? I've always dressed like this. What's up all of a sudden? John always had something to say about my clothes or belongings. From my bag and outfit to my hairstyle and makeup, he'd complain they weren't feminine enough or didn't fit a working adult. Once, when we went out for lunch near the station and stopped by a bookstore, he picked up a women's magazine and started this conversation. Hey, Aita, why don't you dress like this? It was a magazine targeted at ladies, adorned with flashy text and decorations. Win this summer with a dress, get ready for a date with a $300 outfit. Honestly, these were far from my interests and lifestyle. Sorry, but I'm not really into this stuff. It doesn't suit me or my job. Oh, so you're not interested in matching my taste. He turned moody after that. 6 months into our marriage, he started acting strangely and would get upset for no reason. I couldn't understand what John wanted or was thinking. Since then, our relationship has felt strained. We only have minimal conversation now, with no room for fun chats or light jokes. It's like there's a draft between us. Though we've never had a big fight or anything to apologize for. I can't figure out where things went wrong. If there had been some issue or argument in the past, I could trace back and try to resolve it, but honestly, I'm clueless. The only thing that comes to mind is when I turned down the outfit John wanted me to wear. Could that be the cause? Living together, sharing the same space and time, I thought we'd find some common ground for casual conversation. There was a TV special about infidelity airing at the time. The usual commentators and hosts were debating definitions of cheating and where the line is drawn. Of course, I'm totally against cheating. I've even broken up with past boyfriends because of their infidelity. In my view, cheating is absolutely off limits, especially in a marriage. Trying to lighten the mood, I casually brought it up to John. Hey, this TV show is discussing infidelity. Yeah, well, love takes different forms for everyone, doesn't it? Love does come in different forms, sure. Then, John started speaking rapidly, almost as if he was trying to convince me. Think about it, right? Isn't it weird that a single piece of paper called marriage suddenly means you can't fall in love with anyone else for the rest of your life? I mean, what's up with that? A bit of free love should be okay. Honestly, there was something unsettling about his words, not quite what you'd expect from a married man. It made me wonder if something had happened. Or if John was the type who wanted to continue romantic adventures even after marriage. Besides, love isn't defined by marriage as a formality, but by the depth of feeling, right? No matter how married you are, if you don't truly love someone, it's meaningless. Hearing this made me question what marriage meant to John, and it left me feeling uneasy. His words seemed directed at me, and I couldn't bring myself to look him in the eye. How could I have fallen for someone who can say such unbelievable things without batting an eye? I must have been out of my mind back then. Days passed, but I couldn't shake off what John had said. Knowing him, he wasn't the type to joke about such things, which only made me feel more perplexed and eager to find out the truth. I wondered if there was any way to investigate this. I flipped through work files. Then it hit me, maybe I could ask someone for confirmation. One day, John came home, avoiding my gaze, and said, "I have to go on a business trip tomorrow." "Another business trip? Weren't you gone for like 3 days last week?" Unfazed by my surprise, John replied nonchalantly, "Can't help it, right? Someone quit unexpectedly at this busy time, and work isn't getting done. I'm like the go-to big brother there, I have to keep things running." His sudden announcement made me ask, "Hey, is the person who quit someone I know? The senior you talked about before?" I used to have an idea of who he mentioned from work since John used to share office stories and funny incidents. My casual question was met with a hard look. "What? Does it matter who it is? What's it got to do with you, Aita?" "No, it's just small talk, nothing more." But John, clearly irked, cut the conversation short and went to the bathroom. Lately, his business trips seemed to be increasing. 3 years into our marriage, there hadn't been any significant talk of department changes or promotions. Nothing from John, at least. But the trips had become more frequent. From once a month to twice, then thrice. Now, he's often gone twice a week, and sometimes even the entire week. The next day, before leaving for work, John said to me, "This trip is with an important client, so don't you dare contact me." "What?" The seriousness of his request surprised me. "Got it? If my phone rings during a crucial deal and I get distracted, it's on you. Can you handle the responsibility if a $200 million contract falls through?" With those words, he left, and I watched his retreating figure, deep in thought. I got ready and headed to work. As usual, in my hoodie and jeans, riding my trusty old bike. I finished my duties at the daycare and was going to take a break. I noticed the TV in the break room was covering a traffic accident. While chatting with a colleague about the dangers of traffic accidents, my phone rang. I don't usually carry my phone at work, but I had it with me in the break room and noticed the call immediately. It was from an unknown number, and to my surprise, it was the police on the line. They were calling to inform me that John had been in a traffic accident. Just the other day, he seemed fine, but now in an accident? I couldn't believe it, but I composed myself to hear more. He was in critical condition from the accident and had been rushed to the hospital. He was still unconscious, and they wanted me to come right away. I hurriedly asked for the location of the accident and the hospital's name. But something struck me as odd when I heard the name of the police station. It was in a famous town for sightseeing. Why would John be on a business trip there? This thought crossed my mind. But regardless, I needed to rush to John's side. The story begins from there. After consulting with the daycare director, I left work early and took some time off to be with John. But before heading to him, there was something I needed to do first. I made a phone call. And soon, documents were sent to my house. At the hospital, John was lying in bed. He didn't wake up for 5 days, but finally regained consciousness. The doctor said he had a head-on collision with a truck, resulting in severe damage and partial paralysis.
No way, John, you're kidding, right?
Sorry, but please take care of the two of us. I was lost in thought at his words. Take care of the two of us? What was he talking about? It didn't seem like a joke, so I asked.
Sorry, but who are the two people you're referring to?
John's expression briefly showed he had slipped up. Who else? It's me and Erica. Erica is Emily's daughter, my niece. I had met her a few times at my parents' house, but why bring her up now?
Why are you suddenly mentioning Erica?
Well, I got a call from Erica during my trip. She asked me to take care of her if anything happened to her. The fact that Erica would contact John directly, and not her mother, was puzzling. Why not ask Emily? I blurted out.
Wait, you have Erica's contact info?
Well, it's more like I was in touch with Emily. John and Emily were in contact? And what did he mean by take care of if something happened? His hesitant tone was particularly troubling. I was still trying to process all this when a nurse wheeled in another hospital bed. The fellow passenger in the same traffic accident, the nurse said as she wheeled in the bed. I couldn't help but cry out when I saw who was in that bed. It was unmistakably Emily. And her belly was noticeably large.
Emily? Why are you here? And that belly?
I was baffled by what the nurse said about them being co-passengers in the same accident. And the two people John was referring to earlier, could it be? So, let me get this straight. Because of the accident, you're asking me to take care of you and my sister, right? Exactly. You catch on quick. It's great to have a woman who's sharp in situations like this. I felt as if all the blood had drained from my body. This was too perfect to be a mere coincidence. It couldn't possibly be a coincidence. I was scared to ask, but I had to.
Don't tell me, John, you were on a supposed business trip here with my sister and got into this accident?
Well, the trip was real, or rather not a lie. It just happened that Emily was here, and I thought I'd drop her off. His stammering, desperate excuses were pathetic. I could somewhat sense that my voice was trembling. I could barely comprehend the situation I was in. So, you coincidentally met my sister during a business trip and ended up sightseeing together? I blurted out at John, overwhelmed by emotions. My emotions are a mess, torn between not wanting to hear any more and knowing this isn't an issue I can just ignore. Whether he knew about my feelings or not, John was speaking in a nonchalant tone. He probably still hasn't fully grasped the situation he's in. John was trying to figure out how to talk his way out of this. His eyes were busy, darting here and there.
You're blowing this way out of proportion. It's your bad habit to always think the worst, he retorted.
I seized the opportunity to confront him with the truth. John, this was a fake business trip, wasn't it? A cover for your affair with my sister.
Me? On a fake business trip? I'm a sought-after man. I don't have time for such things.
He seemed to think that yelling would make the problem go away. So, you're saying you weren't on a fake trip? Even if you shout, I wonder if the boss would believe that? John always put work first and valued his reputation above all. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that his work was solely driven by how much he was evaluated and praised by important people. Mentioning the company president's name made him flinch. When I mentioned the president's name, it seemed like he flinched for a moment.
What? The president? What does he have to do with this? If you're not doing anything shady, you should be able to explain everything to the president, if you can, that is.
John scoffed.
You don't understand how it works. A president doesn't get involved in every little employee's business trip. You're embarrassing yourself not knowing that.
Say whatever you want.
Oh, and I have a letter from that very president.
The moment he saw the envelope with the company's name, his expression changed from despair to joy.
Finally, my efforts have been recognized. Working from entry-level to regular employee for over 15 years, it all meant something, John said with a sense of accomplishment.
Really, a raise? I asked, almost bursting into laughter at his confident assumption.
Of course. My peers have been getting promotions, and I've been waiting for my turn for over a decade. But hard work pays off. Hurry, hand over the letter.
He genuinely seemed to believe the envelope contained a notice of his salary increase.
Here you go, take your time reading it,
I said as I handed him the envelope. He snatched it roughly and placed it on the hospital table. Holding the envelope, he looked at it intently, his face tense with anticipation. As he tore open the envelope, his excitement was evident. But upon unfolding the paper, his expression froze.
A termination notice. Why me?
The envelope was actually from John's company's president.
Look, there's more paperwork inside the envelope. You'll understand once you go through it. Shut up. Just shut up.
He snapped, flipping the envelope upside down and spilling out all its contents. The documents scattered on the table, some falling to the floor.
Receipt discrepancies for claimed expenses, and inconsistencies in your travel routes.
Do any of these ring a bell?
No way, that can't be.
I had contacted the company's president right after the accident, asking him to check John's company phone GPS and expense receipts. The president was already suspicious of John's actions. He was proactive in his response, especially since it was an employee's wife who reached out. Thanks to the president's efforts, a mountain of irrefutable evidence against John was gathered in no time. No matter how much John tried, the fact that he had been misusing company funds on fake business trips was undeniable.
It seems the president has been watching you closely, John.
He's thorough, isn't he?
Shut up.
There's nothing you can do now.
Your usual tricks and lies won't work. How much did you know?
Everything.
I knew you were getting fired.
I had been informed by the president that John was scheduled for dismissal. However, considering his long service, they had offered him the option to resign voluntarily.
What am I supposed to do now? Oh right, Aita, you're a preschool teacher, so you're fine.
Fine? What do you mean?
I questioned his smug expression. You have qualifications, so you can work anywhere, anytime. I may have my certification, but I'll become a stay-at-home husband, managing the house, taking care of Emily and her child. Nowadays, with volunteers and helpers, we can manage childcare.
Meanwhile, you work.
Sounds like a good plan, right?
I was disgusted by John's rambling, his nostrils flaring with excitement. His selfish remarks were a mix of astonishment and anger, stirring indescribable emotions within me.
Who's going to lend you a hand? You and some volunteers,
he said, still believing someone would help him out, a mindset I couldn't comprehend. People say that life is about helping each other, but in this case, it's clear that all he's thinking about is receiving help unilaterally. Relying on someone isn't bad, but living a life where you only think about getting help and relying on others, what's that about?
I didn't work hard to earn my preschool teaching qualification just to support a cheating, dishonest man. I'm not working to live with someone like that.
I handed John the business card of the lawyer I had already hired.
We're getting a divorce. I'll be seeking alimony. Any further discussions will go through the lawyer. A divorce? Demanding alimony from a partially paralyzed person? Are you a demon? Do you even realize what you're doing?
I sighed in exasperation and said,
Do you realize what you've done? I could throw your words right back at you. Maybe if you reflect on your actions, you'll understand. Weren't you in love with me, and didn't we marry? What about the vows we took in sickness and in health? Were they all lies?
John grasped the hem of my shirt with his functioning hand, but I briskly shook it off. Looking down at Emily in the next bed, I said, "Emily, you've always needed to be number one, haven't you? Even towards me, your younger sister." Emily's expression faltered for a moment but quickly returned to normal.
Of course. I couldn't stand the idea of plain Ida getting married before me. I was supposed to be the one to marry into wealth first.
Marry into wealth? I asked incredulously.
Yes. My first boyfriend right after high school was just into casinos and didn't work. Erica's father earned a meager salary, and we were still living in an apartment. I couldn't stand it anymore.
Emily said tearfully, but her words were utterly self-centered. You only think about what others can do for you.
I'm a woman. Looking beautiful is my job, right? I want to be a shining jewel beside my husband. And I thought John, despite not being very handsome, worked at a well-known company and had a good salary?
I asked, to which she glared at me.
You didn't divorce John quickly, so we had to sneak around and ended up in this accident.
As Emily glanced back and forth between John and me, I asked,
So you're saying it's my fault? Yes, what about it?
The choice of a marriage partner was undoubtedly your own. Using someone's income as an excuse to meddle with another person's husband doesn't justify anything. Realizing further conversation with these two would only exhaust me, I decided to leave. Lingering in the hospital room would only cause more disturbance. Their dialogue was like something out of a drama, unbelievable and overly dramatic. The extent of their unreasonable statements left me speechless. I'll discuss the rest with Emily through the lawyer. For now, just know that I'm seeking a lump sum in alimony.
Alimony? Against a partially paralyzed person?
Sorry, but you were on a cheating trip, weren't you? You brought this on yourself. Emily reacted strongly to my words of "you brought this on yourself." Mumbling to herself in denial, her face grew increasingly pale, and I couldn't help but feel amazed at how far she was willing to run from reality. Eventually, John and I divorced. With a strong lawyer specializing in divorce cases, I successfully obtained higher than average alimony from John. After resigning from his job, John was heard to be drifting from place to place. Emily, having tried to steal her own sister's husband, ended up being disowned by her family. She's been aimlessly wandering, with nowhere to go. She did receive assistance from a facility that supports people with disabilities, but all she did was complain, "This isn't the kind of work I should be doing, and I can't stand these trivial tasks." Her behavior was not only unproductive but also disruptive to others, leading to her being banned from the facility. Now, she's barely getting by on minimal disability insurance. As for Emily's child Erica, after contacting Erica's father, he gladly agreed to take her in. This was a relief, considering the custody battle during their divorce where Emily insisted that a mother should always be with her child, and the mediator granted her custody. I was somewhat worried about Erica, so it's truly a relief she's with her father, away from Emily's influence. I felt relieved because staying with Emily, Erica wouldn't have been truly happy. I continue to work at the daycare, living my usual life. As for the alimony, John's family ended up paying his part, and Emily is repaying hers through a loan. Although the settlement was more than I expected, the happy days of ignorance are gone and won't return. Now, all I can do is look forward and move on. There's no point in looking back since I can't return to those days. Perhaps quitting my job and traveling to unknown countries could be a good change. These are the thoughts I ponder as I go about my day.